Can you hear me? Let me know if you can't hear me. If you can't, I might have to start this all over again. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay, looks like you can. Okay, hi guys, it's Jackie M here with another live broadcast of Asian cooking. Hey Sayan, how you doing? And today I thought like I was going, well, first of all, I gotta make some chicken curry. I don't know if I'll do it today or tomorrow, non-live stream, because I've done cooked chicken curry a couple of times live on air already. I have to make some for this family that I'm delivering some food to. I can hear you. Okay, great. Just let me scroll this down a little bit and let me just check on Discord to see if it announced. Apparently it didn't, so give me a second. Okay, hi. But I also want to make something for myself to eat, right? So we'll see how we go for time, but I want to start off doing this, what I'm making now. And if we have time, we'll make the chicken curry. If we don't, I'll leave it for myself to do tomorrow. But yeah, those of you who don't know me, my name is Jackie M, and I am a Malaysian street food specialist based in Sydney, Australia, former restaurateur and born in Malaysia. And nowadays I do mostly live streams. I'm actually one of the refugees from Google Hangouts on Air. I started live streaming there about 5 years ago. And started on Twitch, coming up to 5 months now, just about. It feels like just yesterday, in all honesty. Yeah, so anyway, don't forget to say hello. Actually, let me just check my Nightbot. I always forget my Nightbot. Hang on a sec. Where are we? Okay, disable that. Next live stream. Okay, live stream enable. Okay. I hope I've enabled the right stuff and not enabled the wrong stuff. Remy, hey, how you doing? Okay, cool, radio. So, Laksa, and you've seen me do Laksa a bunch of times, not just on Google Hangouts, but also on television and also on YouTube and in all its different incarnations, right? Today, this particular Laksa recipe, I haven't actually tried yet. And the reason why I haven't tried is because when we came to Australia, my family didn't know how to make Laksa. And I think that it would, if you would admit to it, most Malaysians grow up in Malaysia eating Laksa on a regular basis, but never bother learning how to make it. So this was one of those dishes. I forgot to change it to live, but did it. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so Laksa is one of those things we all grew up eating, but because it's so readily available and seemingly so labor intensive, nobody goes home and says we're going to have Laksa for dinner and mom's going to cook Laksa. It doesn't happen, all right? It's only when we move overseas that we think, oh damn, we really miss that Laksa. So my stepmom, who's a fabulous cook, by the way, she she attempted to make Laksa, and the version that she ended up making, right, to me tasted like a little bit like muddy water, you know. It was basically curry, like diluted curry, diluted, like, yeah, like a very weak curry with noodles instead of meat and all that. I'm out of here. Crunchy, how you doing? Yeah, so because of that, I was a little bit kind of like, you know, the whole Laksa myth dissipated with my mom's version of Laksa, my stepmom's version of Laksa. So when I opened my restaurant, the version of Laksa I actually developed was what I call Laksa Nyonya. Okay, so it's more creamy, it uses all fresh ingredients like turmeric, galangal, all that sort of stuff, right? But when I went to Kuala Lumpur and had the breakfast buffets at these hotels like Traders Kuala Lumpur and also Grand Hyatt Kuala Lumpur, they always had Laksa as part of their breakfast buffet. It sounds very strange to Westerners because Laksa is like a curry dish, right? Like a spicy noodly dish. Okay, how you doing? Yes, Cyan is a mod. Cyan was the first ever mod because Cyan used to be my assistant. Yeah, so I really like the laksa from Traders Hotel in Kuala Lumpur. So if ever you travel to Kuala Lumpur, go to the breakfast buffet at Traders Kuala Lumpur and try their laksa, okay? And I actually posted a photo just before I went live on air, which was a serving of the laksa I used to have at Traders. And they served it with stuffed vegetables. And I thought, oh, perfect, you know. I found it because I was Googling for a photo of laksa that I own. Obviously, I don't go around stealing people's photos. Yeah, so anyway, I found that photo from when I had laksa at Traders Kuala Lumpur, and it was the way they set up like the laksa buffet, right, at the hotel is fairly elaborate. You've got like 50 different things you can actually add to your laksa bowl. So usually in Malaysia, when we had laksa from a street food vendor, you are generally a little bit limited in terms of what goes into it. You will have what we call the siham or blood cockles, right? Which I love, but we can't get decent ones here in Sydney. So I might actually, I've got some frozen oysters. I don't know if that will work well with it. We're gonna give it a try. The bots worked. Look at the announcements channel. There's an announcement channel. Ah, okay. So what, it doesn't go in the general channel or? Anyway, so yeah, what happened was that, yeah, in Malaysia, you might get some fish balls, that sort of stuff, and you'll have tofu, right? Tofu puffs and all that. But at the hotel, when you're at like a big hotel with their breakfast buffet, they have a lot more different options. You have all kinds of different noodles to go with your laksa, you know, so you tell the guy what you want. You want this kind of noodle, you want like fish balls and whatever else sort of thing, and they'll blanch it for you, throw it into a bowl, and then pour the laksa soup over. And I was a little bit fixated on having with stuffed veggies, right? So I figured, look, I actually have some stuffed fish paste from a couple of days ago that I made for myself over here that's left over because I used it to make stuffed veggies. You've seen me make stuffed veggies a couple of times live on air here on Twitch because it's one of my go-to you know, dishes here at home, right? So I didn't want to kind of like put you through me doing it again. Well, I did make some on the weekend, but I had some fish paste left over. So I figured this will be a great opportunity to make more of this, but actually serve it with the laksa, okay? So you get to kind of check it out. I'm no longer a peasant, I'm a mod. Oh, you guys, honestly. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, this, like I said, this particular laksa recipe I actually got from the Grand Hyatt in Kuala Lumpur because I was actually filming a TV show over there a couple of years ago, and they hosted me, and they on top of filming the TV show, in my downtime, I was actually also running live video streams from the hotel kitchen. So they actually supplied me with their laksa recipe. And I posted it on my blog a couple of years ago, but I haven't actually tried it. So this is my first time trying it. Let's have a look. Okay, I don't have some of the ingredients, I have to warn you, but I think we'll do okay without them, all right? So basically we need onions, we need chilies, we need dried shrimp. I'm gonna go and grab that. It says we need shallots as well. I thought it was a little bit unusual because I know in Malaysia we use... We usually use shallots or we use onions, but sometimes we use a bit of both. But this particular recipe calls for both, so I'm just going to use one, which will be onions, okay? We need garlic, we need oil, we need something called bunga kantan, okay? This is what it looks like. And people always get, here in Sydney, the Malaysians in Sydney get very jealous that I have a ready supply of bunga kantan in my freezer all the time, and that's because of my connections with the restaurant industry, all right? This is a little bit hard to come by. This is actually frozen, so it's not fresh, okay? But this is what it looks like, and this is what we call ginger flower bud, all right? So it's from a variety of ginger, not your regular ginger that you buy. But this actually is used traditionally in Penang laksa. So I'm kind of surprised that this is actually in their curry laksa recipe, okay? So we're gonna mince this up along with all the other spice ingredients, and also it calls for meat curry powder. Okay, remember how I say curry laksa essentially is kind of like a like a runny curry, right, with some tweaks to it, one of which is, like I said, the addition of this. The other addition is laksa leaves, which I don't have either, but it's laksa leaves is also known as Vietnamese mint here in Australia. Okay, yeah, bunga kantan, yeah, I know. Hey Tev, how you doing? Good to see you again. So this is my curry powder that I'm going to be using today. It literally says meat curry powder. And if this is your first time watching me, or you haven't caught any of my other broadcasts regarding curry powders, don't get too fixated on this brand. This is, I mean, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with this brand, right? But this is Malaysian. But if you go shopping in your local Asian grocery store and you're lucky enough to come across curry powders from Malaysia, you'll find that Malaysian curry powders come in 3 broad categories, okay? So there'll be either fish curry powder, or meat curry powder in this case, or there'll be rendang curry powder or rendang spice mix, along those lines. That's what they call them. I mean, there are different other ways to pass them further, but those are the 3 broad categories. But for this particular recipe, we're using the meat curry powder. It doesn't actually mean it contains any meat. It just means that if you're trying to replicate a Malaysian meat curry, say like a chicken curry or or like a lamb curry or something like that, this will be probably like, this will contain probably the best balance of spices you want to replicate the flavors. Again, having said that, when I had my restaurant, I used to make a very, very popular lamb curry, and I used the fish curry powder in it, okay? And likewise with the fish curry powder, it doesn't mean it actually has any fish in it. It just basically says this is best for you, you know, for using the fish recipe, okay? Is Jackie going to mod all the regulars? Maybe I should, you know, it's not a bad idea. Anyone wants to mod, put your hand up and I'd be more than happy. Unless, you know, as long as you're not trolly or whatever, I'd be happy to mod you. Okay, so what else do I need? I need lemongrass, and I'm going to be using this frozen minced lemongrass over here. And in fact, in Malaysia, they, a lot of the time when they make laksa soup, they don't actually mince the lemongrass. They keep them intact, right? The stalk. They'll bruise the bulb of it, and then they'll simmer it in the soup. And of course, they'll leave it simmering in the soup, and it'll infuse the soup with the lemongrassy flavor. But having said that, this particular recipe actually calls for it to be minced, so that kind of works out well for us, okay? But generally, if you're making a laksa paste, you want your soup to be soupy. You don't want it to be like thick like a gravy sort of thing. So keep those in mind when you're balancing out the spices and all that, all right? The other thing it calls for is actually coriander powder. And I've got some coriander powder down in my storage, but I don't want to have to run downstairs to grab it. I'm just going to skip the coriander powder. I'm not a huge like fan of coriander per se anyway. And then just water and coconut cream, all right? So it sounds easy enough. Those are the ingredients we're going to play with. So let's get on to do the advert to unmod Crunchy. Everyone's bullying poor Crunchy. Okay. And also I actually dug out of storage one of my sister's woks, so I'm going to use that for the heck of it today. And this is what it looks like, because we were talking about different types of woks before, right? This is her wok that I dug out from storage, okay? And this is what I mean by a stainless steel wok, okay? I don't, as a matter of course, use stainless steel woks per se, but this is good for making, like, for frying up curry spices and all that, because it's quite thick and heavy based, right? It will distribute the heat evenly. But because it's thick and heavy based, it's not probably your first choice if you want to do the kind of stir fry that requires like very high heat very quickly, you know what I mean? So those ones you need iron woks, you know, the black ones that you can pick up, like, well, when you buy them they won't be black, they'll be silver in color at Asian grocery stores. They'll be fairly cheap as well, right? Back in the day, I always sound really old when I say that. Back in the day when I used to buy them, the smaller ones would cost about $8, okay? They probably cost a bit more now, but yeah, those are the ones that I use for stir frying noodles where I really want to scorch the noodles, okay? My mom, on the other hand, because I do mention that street food in Malaysia is very different to home-cooked Malaysian food, okay? You can be a fabulous cook, but if you work in a restaurant environment, you know, you could be a professional chef in a restaurant, Malaysian restaurant, but if you've never cooked street food, you'll find that like the skill set and the requirements, the recipes are quite different, okay? And again, if you're a good home cook, your repertoire of dishes will be very, very different to what you can actually buy in the street in Malaysia, okay? So where I come in is I try and kind of like bridge the gap a little bit, right? Everyone always asks, oh, where did you learn to cook? Where did you learn to cook? I started out learning to cook like the basics from my stepmom, but when I decided to get into the whole food thing, I decided to focus on Malaysian street food, okay? So when you see me flipping roti canai and all that sort of stuff, those are all self-taught, you know, cooking satays and all that, those are all self-taught essentially. But yeah, this is not something I ever used in my restaurant, okay? This is something my mom uses a lot in her home kitchen. But we're gonna use it today to fry up the curry paste. Okay, the other thing is that I dug up this packet of chili powder. I don't know how spicy it is, okay, and also a Malaysian brand. It literally says chili powder here, and in Malay it says serbuk chili, okay. Depending on how spicy it is, if it's too spicy, we'll leave it, or we might just add a little bit of it. But if it's not too spicy, I might actually use it in lieu of the fresh chilies it calls for. It needs a fair bit of fresh chilies otherwise. So at the moment, this is all the fresh chilies I've got in the house, okay. Maybe we'll split the difference and use a bit of both. But generally when I make laksa, I use dried chilies, okay. Jackie spelled it right, she says so. Was it, do you have new shoes? Do you have shoes on inside? Yeah, I do. I used to wear slippers, right? And then like it just looked, I wear these cheap Chinese slippers, and when I walk away you can see them and they just look really, yeah, after a while I decided, no, I might as well do this properly. Okay, so these are the dried big chilies, okay? And I've mentioned before as well, with Southeast Asian cooking certainly anyway, we primarily use two types of chilies. We just call them big chilies and small chilies, okay? We're not very technical in that sense. But this is literally like big chilies, big dried chilies. And the way you would use them, certainly if you're making a curry paste, is you would basically simmer it in some hot water and then puree it, okay? Let's just... The reason why I'm a little bit reluctant to use this today is because my Thermomix is away for repairs, right? And I've got my fabulous Thermocook, but my Thermocook has a built-in safety function to counter people trying to sue Thermomix because of getting burned by like things exploding and all that. But basically with the Thermocook, right, as a safety function, it actually doesn't puree unless the food is down to a particular temperature. Whereas with this, I need to actually boil it till it's hot, right? So it may take a while for me to let it cool down and before I can puree it. So you can see I think through all these as I'm doing it. It's not like I have everything all planned out, but as I'm talking, I'm thinking, oh, yeah, should I do it this way or that way? Anyway, let's do it. Okay. So this is my Thermocook. Okay, I'm just gonna put the thing in place. Okay, you know what? I've got a new one. I might use that one. And don't forget to say hi, and don't forget my Discord channel, right? All these guys who are chatting, who are fighting with each other in my chat on Twitch now, actually they hang out a lot on Discord. So you want to see how vicious the fights get, go over to Discord. So I'm just going to throw this in here. And add some water. I might have to run off and get more water later on because of the kind of dishes we're making. I need a fair bit of it. Okay, let's put this on. Okay, so that's just gonna basically bring it to a boil, right? And it's just kind of like stirring it gently. That was the wok lid. I'm running out of space in here. And also I want to puree some of this. I think these are too small for me to be able to stuff. But these will fall into the category of big chilies as well. But you know, the big chilies can vary significantly in size, and these would generally be considered too small to kind of like stuff some fish paste in. But maybe I'll try and do a couple just for aesthetics. But the rest of it will, well, some of it will blend for the laksa paste, right? And the other ingredient, I showed you this the other day. This is tofu puffs, right? And these are like spongy tofu that have been deep fried, so they look like honeycomb on the inside, all right? But the great thing about these is because it's kind of spongy, it absorbs the flavors of like whatever dish they go into, all right? So when I use these for stuffing fish paste with, right? And then I stir fried it Hakka style with some oyster sauce and garlic. It absorbed all the oyster sauce and all that, so it's really nice and flavorsome. So we're going to do some of that today for this dish, but we're also going to toss some of it in the soup as well. Traditionally, laksa soup does come with tofu puffs, okay? Curry laksa does. And this is what it looks like. And like I said, the reason is so it absorbs the soup. Move this out of the way. Okay, let's see what this is like. Valerie, hey, how you doing? Crunchy, you're not working today? So this is the curry powder, alright? And I've mentioned before with curry powders, they come in different like levels of heat and all that. So you always want to check before you use them. Find out if they're going to be too hot, alright? This one is from Malaysia, so I'm counting on it being a little bit milder than the ones from Thailand that I've been known to get. Let's try it. Okay, so it actually looks like curry powder. It's quite an orangey color. Okay, it's not too bad, right? It's not like blow the roof of your mouth kind of hot. Sammy, hey, how you doing? Sammy, you gotta send me your address for that t-shirt. So this is another type of dried chili, right? This is the really hot one. This is from Thailand. I'll show you. Okay, this is labeled as chili crush at the shops. You can see it. And I'd imagine different brands will be different, so you can't really like, you know, hold me to it as far as, you know, I'm generalizing sort of thing to some extent. But this particular brand is from Thailand, and like I said, it's labeled chili crush. And you don't want to be using equal, like you don't want to do a one-to-one swap if you're replacing fresh chili with this, okay? This Malaysian one I've just tried, it's pretty mild, so it's great. I might use a fair bit of that. And then you'll see chili flakes, right? I've seen chili flakes from India. Also at my local Asian grocery store, you'll find different types of chili, dried chilies, crushed chilies, at wherever you buy them from, okay? But the particular chili flakes that I get that are from India, they're pretty mild as well. But they're not like crushed. They're not powdery like this. They're not like half crushed like the Thai ones. They are more granular, all right? They're like the big dried chilies, if you actually stuck it in a blender without adding water to it, that's what the chili flakes will basically look like, okay? whisper it now. Yeah, don't forget. Yeah, that'd be cool. Okay, so I've got some prawns as well I might throw in because they're looking a little bit manky in my freezer, alright? So I want to use them up. But okay, let's get started. Let's start with the... I bought some cutting boards, by the way, too. And by the way, guys, I've mentioned before, if you've got any ideas for great giveaways, let me know so that I can actually talk to potential like giveaway sponsors and all that, right? Someone mentioned knives, which I think is a fabulous idea. I just got to track down the sponsors of my previous set of knives have kind of like gone AWOL for a while. Thanks, Sammy. Cool. I'll get it to you as soon as I get 2 minutes. I check their time because it's night in America. Do I have permission to change the title to... Oh yeah, can I? Do I have to do it? Shoot, I forgot about it. Can you do it? Like, do you have permission? If you do, change it. Yeah, that'll be great. There's confusing people that I always forget to change the title because I'm streaming from like XSplit. I don't even go into my Twitch dashboard much at all, unless I'm vodcasting or something like that. But I always forget, and then at the end of it I realized that the whole broadcast I've done actually said that this was a vodcast, and I forget about Nightbot and all that as well. I'm just adding late night snack. Okay, cool. Late night snack. If you're in America, if you're in Australia, it's a different case. Okay, so I want onions, right? I'm going to do half the quantity, so I want 500 grams fresh big, the 500 grams? Let me have a look. 1 kilo of onions, okay? That's 1 kilo of onions, so I'm going to use 500 grams, which is, I guess, about 3 large onions. I'm supposed to have some shallots too. I probably should use more. I'm thinking that's way too much. I won't be able to eat all this up. So I'm just gonna kind of like agat, right? This is a very, this is one of my go-to terms. It just means guesstimate. But yeah, these cutting boards I bought from Aldi just on the weekend. They're meant to fold up so that you can tip the food in after you cut up. But they're cheap ones. They're like $1.99 or something like that, so I've got a couple of them lying here. Yeah, let me know if you've got ideas for giveaways. You can tell me now, yeah, and /maybe someone will make a note of it. Or you can go over to Discord. My Discord channel is just bit.ly, bit.ly/discordjackie, all lowercase, yeah? So let's do the onions. What did I do with my gloves? Okay. Okay, so that was already boiling, so I've just turned it off, and hopefully I'll let it cool down enough so that at some point I can blend it. Gloves. Small Australian food box as giveaway, maybe like Vegemite. Oh, Vegemite, huh? That's a good idea. Unless you're from Australia and you'll be like, why am I getting a Vegemite gift box? Like Vegemite things to do with Aussie. That's a great idea. Why didn't I think of it? Right? So what else goes into that? Tim Tams, Vegemite. What else is in the Australian gift box? Trying to think. I'm really lame like this, right? Valorine for Americans, Vegemites and Tim Tams. Yeah, I know, right? Why didn't I think of it? You forget how you forget how unique Australia is when you've lived here for 30-something years, you know. They'll just throw in a little koala or something like that. I took a screen grab yesterday of this crybaby on my chat who was going on get the F off my homepage and go F and stream somewhere else and whatever. It's just so interesting that some people take such umbrage at the fact that Twitch actually has content other than gaming, you know. I just called him a crybaby. and he didn't want to engage. That was really annoying. He kind of like make these hit and run thingos and then run off. So I was like, come back, you know, let's talk some more. And then he didn't come back, so I just kind of like said, oh, he's probably gone off. Maybe mommy's off to change his nappy or something like that, you know. So I didn't want him to come back while I was gone, so I banned him, because that would be just cheap if he's you know, gonna come back and throw me more cheap shots while I'm gone, right? So I went off and checked out his channel, and no wonder he's a crybaby. He's a he's a loser. I'm fine with just Australian stuff. I don't need Malaysian lollies. Why not? You know, that's a good idea too. Maybe something Malaysian. I thought about Malaysian like ingredients and that sort of stuff, but that's kind of hard. You saw like my whole like pantry of, I've got a huge box of all these different Malaysian sauces, right? And they're actually like, some of them like a couple of years expired. They'll taste fine, but I know how you white people are so weirded out by like expiry dates and all. I'm making fun of white. I make fun of all races, all right, guys. Don't take me too seriously. So 3 onions, let's just quarter them. And these are gonna get blended. And I want some garlic. I'm going to cheat and use dried garlic because I'm running low on my fresh garlic and I forgot to buy some. So I've got my garlic granules. Racist white people. Yeah, you honkies, you crackers. So this is my garlic granules over here. I'm going to throw this in. And I'm just going to roughly chop up these chilies and throw them in there. So that's a lot of onion, even like what I'm using here. I'm kind of thinking I might leave some out. So I might, instead of making half the quantity, I might make a quarter of it. It's like someone on, because I share, you know, I'm one of those people. People take exception to how I treat trolls, right? They say, oh, why are you giving them the airtime and all that? They just want to whatever. I don't care. Like, you know, to me, it's like naming and shaming sort of thing. It'd be like someone robbed you, and you know, at least you can do is kind of like plaster their face all over the internet so that other people are forewarned. You know, I don't care if that kind of like gives them some weird satisfaction at becoming famous, but the point is, from my perspective, is to hold them to task for their behavior, right? So yeah, I posted it on social media and people were going, oh, like, you know, it's kind of strange how these people are angry that you're broadcasting non-gaming content on Twitch. It's like walking into an ice cream parlor and complaining, demanding to see the manager because, you know, there are too many flavors there or something like that. It's just stupid. I don't know what kind of like sad, pathetic existence these people hold, you know, that will cause them to get upset over something like that. So chili, garlic, onion. I want pureed garlic because it's already like granular form, and I won't throw the lemongrass in because it's already minced, but I will throw in the bunga kantan. All right, so I'll just throw in half of it. I think that'll be enough. So this is 1/2 of the should I throw the whole thing in? Maybe I'll throw the whole thing in. You know, in all honesty, I don't know how much difference this is going to make to the flavor of the soup because I've never actually used this in any kind of laksa except Penang laksa. Okay, so to me it's a little bit unusual to have this in a southern, because Kuala Lumpur is technically it's kind of like the southern part of the peninsula of Malaysia. Further up north you use this sort of stuff a lot, but southern part, which is where I come from, I had no idea what this was growing up in my part of Malaysia. Okay, but let's humor them and throw it in. Okay, so in that goes, and I probably will leave the stalk out. So essentially, if you don't have it, don't worry about it. Got the chilies, and I'm going to just throw in some of the chili powder, the Malaysian chili powder in there. Oops, I might have gotten a little bit carried away there. Okay, you know there is an Australian food box thing that gives out Vegemite and stuff. An Australian food box thing. Okay. Can you be a bit specific? might start being like cheeky. Okay, so chili, onion, that ginger bud, and that's it, right? Let's blend this up. Vegemite is tasty on toast. We have much more than Vegemite and Tim Tams. So what else? Scarlett, thanks for following. Down under boss. Okay, I'll check it out. So there you go, all pureed up, right? You can see the red hue from the chilies. Let's scrape this down. I need someone to sponsor my utensils. Okay, let's do this. So this is basically kind of like your go-to set of spice ingredients when you're making any kind of Malaysian like curry based dish, okay? Minus the bunga kantang, remember, the ginger flower bud thing. So like I said, I never use it, very rarely. That's why I've still got a bunch of it in my freezer, in all honesty. I use them almost as a novelty, you know. So this is what your spice paste looks like. We're just going to add some curry powder to this. Then we're going to add the other stuff like the garlic and the minced lemongrass. And you, in Malaysia, for this particular recipe, well, this is at the Grand Hyatt, mind you, not the traders. At Grand Hyatt, their pot of laksa broth, right, soup, actually, Lavashare, thanks for following. Their big pot of simmering curry laksa soup actually has the laksa leaves simmering in there with it, and I was actually pretty sure it actually had curry leaves as well, okay? So in all honesty, the things that go into our dishes can be a little bit arbitrary, okay? There's no mention of the curry leaves in this particular recipe that they supplied me, but I could have sworn that they did have curry leaves in the soup that we had. But my Australian TV crew loved it so much. That's all they ate every morning, laksa for breakfast in at the Grand Hyatt in Kuala Lumpur. And we were there during Ramadan as well, so they had this fantastic Ramadan buffet. In Malaysia, it's a thing. Ramadan, if you don't know, is kind of like the Muslim fasting month. And Malaysia, because it's a predominantly Muslim country, you know, a lot of people are fasting, but it's a thing in Malaysia for there to be like a sunset Ramadan buffet dinner. So a lot of the big hotels and big restaurants will actually offer like an all-you-can-eat at one price thing, because everyone's starving because they haven't eaten or drunk anything all day, right? You know, and it'll be so incredibly like lavish. It's almost worth going to Malaysia during Ramadan just to check that out. So I was filming there during Ramadan, so yeah, we would come down for the Ramadan buffet. It was just amazing. I mean, hotel buffets in Malaysia are generally pretty awesome anyway, but especially during Ramadan, it was fantastic. Okay, so we want lemongrass. Remember, I'm doing about a quarter of this. I'm just going to put about a handful of the lemongrass in there. And curry powder, how much do I need? 150, it's about 100 grams of curry powder. Okay, so I'm going agar-agar now, okay? So some curry powder mixed through this. Like I said, my mom's recipe, I mean, I love my mom's cooking, my stepmom. CL Sim, thanks for following. I love my stepmom's cooking, but I think her laksa didn't really kind of like her home attempts at laksa never kind of like generated the kind of excitement in my mind, you know. But it was basically like a diluted curry sauce to me. I don't know what was missing from it, so I'm hoping that this one doesn't end up tasting like that, all right? But if you know the cheapo, Remy might know, the way you say Ramadan is so Western. Ramadan. What? Ramadan. I know. People take me to task. I actually grew up in Malaysia. I spent the first nearly 18 years of my life in Malaysia, all right? So I'm actually the real deal. But people see my blonde hair and all that and they'll think, oh, she's westernized, she's not the real deal and whatever. But yeah, anyway. But you start speaking like your customers after a while. You know, when I was selling food, because I started out selling food at the market, so I, you know, for better or worse, I actually spent a lot of time interacting with people directly. You're not stuck in the kitchen up the back, you know, not knowing what your customers are like. But yeah, customers will ask for rendang, 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 and after a while, instead of rendang, right? After a while, you start saying rendang, and then you meet a Malaysian and you say rendang, and say, it's not called rendang, it's called rendang, you know? I mean, that's still like you didn't know. It's like, I know that. It's just really stupid. Why is the zombie still there? Oh, Rachel, what are you talking about? Down under box. Did you actually check out the list of stuff in there? What else? I mean, apart from Tim Tam and Vegemite, what else is in the down under box? I'm curious to know now. Okay, so that's the paste for. I forgot. Did I forget the garlic? Let's throw in the garlic. Okay. And I tend to go a little bit overboard with the garlic with everything I do. Okay, so because I like my garlic. So let's mix this up. And now we're going to fry this up, right? Till the oil separates, as they always say, okay? And then we're going to add coconut milk and add water and add a little bit of stock, only because, again, I always have stock that I'm trying to get rid of, right? Because of running a business. But yeah, but if you don't have stock, just water will be fine. And then you're going to add the seasoning. What did it say about the seasoning? In fact, I don't think I actually put any in there. Oh, dried shrimp. I forgot the dried shrimp. Let me grab that. So this is the dried shrimp. And I use this quite regularly. You can use it like in like a stir fry or something. You can use it whole, or you can steam it with like sticky rice and all that. So lots of different ways to use dried shrimp. But when it comes to Malaysian like the curry recipes and that sort of stuff, usually what we do with the dried shrimp is that we soak them, mince them up, and add them to our spice paste. This is what it looks like, right? This is a very, very small dried shrimp because this is like the cheaper version. Basically, it just kind of like adds that extra shrimpy flavor to whatever dish you're using. You can use it like, you know, as a sprinkle on you will have to toast it first, don't eat it straight out of the bag. You can use it kind of like sprinkled on like salads, like paw salad, the Thai paw salad and all that, right? And growing up in Malaysia, it used to be like poor man's food, but nowadays it's actually quite expensive. And if you go shopping in Malaysia at those wet markets, they don't just have dried shrimp, they'll have like lots of big tubs of different types of dried shrimp of different grades and all that, different prices, right? So it can get a little bit involved. Still here. Bye, Remy. Oh, bye, Remy. Cool. Okay, so this is the chili, right? That was heated in with a little bit of water in this jug here, and I don't know if it's come down to temperature yet. I think it might still be a bit too hot. I can actually add some cold water to it to puree it. But let's throw in the dried shrimp because the water is still hot. You know what? No, I won't. I'm being super lazy here. I'm just going to mince the dried shrimp without actually soaking or rinsing them out, alright? So let's throw that in. There's not a lot of it, so it may actually struggle to mince it really well. It doesn't matter. So Crunchy, do you get homework over the school holidays or? Dave's adapting. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you again. All right, so in a smoothie with the dried shrimp, yeah, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? So there you go. It's all minced up, and in fact, I've actually found couple of my Malaysian fellow Malaysians will know about it, I hope. But I've found like a minced dried shrimp before. It's like I think it's labeled as prawn powder or something like that, right? So that will save you having to soak it and mince it and whatever. But it's also quite expensive. I bought like one packet, and I think it's I've been like I think I might have lost it now because I was so cheap about saving it for a rainy day that I think I ended up just like forgetting where I stored it. It's kind of sad. Haven't had curry. Oh, you guys, anyone who actually plans to come to Australia, right? My subs will get this, right? So any of my subs who plan to come to Australia, come and hit me up for a free feed over here, okay? Then you'll actually get to see what my food tastes like, you know. Okay, so the dried shrimp's in. Let's tip out some of this water, okay? And it doesn't really need all that water anyway. And in all honesty, you're meant to actually use fresh water when you're pureeing it, but you know, generally to me, like the water has been boiled and adds a little bit of flavor. But okay, I've tipped out all the water. I'm going to add some cold water in here, and hopefully that will bring the temperature down enough for me to be able to puree this properly. Otherwise, we have to wait for it to cool down a little bit more. So let's have a look. I thought you were in Japan. Crunchy thought you were in. I'm in Australia and a sub. Where's my free food? Sydney, Sydney, right? When are you coming down to Sydney, Kate? But yeah, all my subs are invited to like you know, drop in anytime for a free feed here, okay? So there you go, beautifully pureed, okay? And I'm going to add, probably not all of it since it's already got the other type of, since it's already got the chili powder in there. So mix it all up. And the fresh chilies. This might actually end up being too hot, right? I kind of like, as I'm talking, I'm thinking, all right, I already added the fresh chilies and I put some chili powder in it. And now I've put in the dried chili, okay? But hopefully it'll be all right. So I've got some manky prawns out of. I don't want you guys to see the manky prawns, but I dug up some manky big prawns from my freezer that I'm gonna maybe use. I might poach up. Okay, so this is my laksa paste. Okay, hopefully it'll turn out okay. There's no seasoning in it. If I were doing it, I would actually add the seasoning now. That way, once you fry it up, you can actually stick it in jars, right? And then next time you want to eat laksa, you just want to actually. You know, you don't need to add the seasoning. You just basically scoop out a couple of spoonfuls of this, simmer it in a saucepan with some water and coconut cream, and that's your laksa soup ready to go. And you can separately blanch your noodles and all that. That's how I make my laksa paste, okay? But this, like I said, this is a different recipe to mine, and it's my first time trying it, okay? It's a fair bit of it here. I'm gonna fry all of it up, but I won't basically move on to using all of it up for the soup, because I'm not going to be able to finish this off. Okay, stove. I've got a soccer ball rolling around that belongs to Noah. Okay, let's move this out of the way. For whatever reason, my screen is, I don't know what I did with my cameras like in the last couple of days, but I'm struggling to actually position things where I can read them properly. Okay, hang on. So here's my sister's wok that I just dug up. It looks pretty, right? Like I said, this isn't something I would buy, and that's, I've lived here for about a year and a half now, and it's been sitting in storage for that long, and longer still, because my sister actually owns this property, but she lives overseas. But she used to rent it out, and this thing has been in storage for as long as she's been overseas. Then when I came along and wanted to rent her place, she said, yeah, just use whatever I want, because she doesn't plan to move back to Australia really. I need oil, so let me go and grab it. Okay, so heating this up, right? I'm gonna add the oil. We want a fair bit of oil when you're making laksa paste. When you cook laksa, aesthetically it should look a little bit oily, all right? If it looks like your regular curry, well, basically you want like a nice sheen of oil in your bowl of laksa soup at the end of it. Okay, so I'm just heating up the oil now. Let's throw this in. And like I said, I don't usually use a stainless steel wok like this, okay? So I don't really know how like well it handles the heat transfer and all that. But I do know when my mom cooks anything in one of these woks, she ends up with like burn marks on it, and she just seems to take forever trying to clean it up properly. Okay, so we're gonna fry this up till, they always say till the oil separates, but basically you want to brown the onion, okay? If you can kind of like make out that the onion's browned up, you know it's done. Okay, so you might have to actually add more oil to this at some point. Animals, thanks for following. Sanctum, Animal Sanctum. Okay, so fish paste, I've done this a couple of times on Twitch already, so I don't really feel obliged to do it from scratch again, but this is what it looks like done up, alright? Essentially it's bassa fillets. Bassa is a type of white fish that we can buy frozen here in Australia, and the reason I use bassa is because it's cheap, alright? Costs like $6.50 a kilo. I did a kilo of it 2 days ago, and this is probably like about half of it that's left over. And what I want to do, because the dish that I'm trying to replicate is essentially laksa served with yong tau fu, right? Yong tau fu is the stuffed veggies, okay? Stuffed tofu technically is what it means, but we stuff all kinds of things with it. So I'm going to stuff some veggies while this is frying up. So you just got to keep stirring this. This is one of the most... Narisha, thanks for following. So this is considered one of the most time-consuming aspects of Asian cooking, just standing and stirring this over a hot stove until it's properly fried up, right? If you're doing a rendang, you'll be frying this a lot longer as well, because rendang is basically like a dry beef curry. You want to stand there with the beef and just fry it gently, adding more liquid if needs be, like coconut cream and water, till the beef is tender. That can take like 3 hours. And also the consistency is like semi-dry. Depending on the kind of rendang you make, different rendangs have different levels of like, you know, yeah, how dry they are basically. And also it should really end up looking a really, really dark brown color, okay? It's at that awkward moment when you try and bring up an emote and you spelled it wrong. Oh, Nelson, thanks for donating. That's very cool. That's so cool. Thank you. Nelson's like my favorite Twitch person now. Crunchy, don't read Geppa's comments out loud. I won't, I know. Laksa is so nice. Time to see how you make it. You know, like I used to sell laksa in my restaurant, but a different one to this one. So this is actually a new recipe for me, right? This is more, technically it should be the more typical laksa that you get if you fly into Kuala Lumpur. If anyone's ever been to Malaysia, if you go to Kuala Lumpur, this is the kind of laksa you will expect to get over there, okay? The version I sold in my restaurant also had coconut cream, also had spices, but it didn't have curry powder, okay? It had other ingredients in there that actually make the flavor a little bit, I don't even know how to describe it. A little bit more fragrant, and also my laksa was quite rich and creamy as well, okay? And traditionally in Kuala Lumpur, and also in my hometown admittedly, which is 40 miles south of Kuala Lumpur, the laksa we had actually would come with blood cockles, all right, which is a kind of like shellfish, but well, kind of clam really, that looks all bloody, and the Chinese like to eat them virtually, you know, just very, very barely bland, so it actually looks bloody in your laksa. So they'll spoon some blood cockles on there. We can't really get blood cockles over here in Sydney, right? Not decent ones anyway. I know you can get some frozen ones, and then you can get some really gigantically large ones, which I don't know where they come from, but they're just not the same texturally to what I grew up having in Malaysia. So I don't bother with blood cockles. So sometimes I'm very sympathetic to restaurant owners. So I'm not the sort of person who likes to diss them, okay? Because I know what it's like. I used to own a restaurant. But it's very easy to critique what people do, all right? So a lot of like Malaysians, or especially, they tend to be your worst critics, and they'll say, oh, I'm choking now. They'll say, oh, this laksa isn't authentic because it doesn't have blood cockles or something like that. But they don't realize it's because it's just not attainable, you know? I'm going to open the door because this is actually quite spicy. It doesn't help that I've had this lingering cold for weeks now too. Okay, so I'm just frying this up. Before the actions time out, I'm giving him a warning. Don't give him a warning if they are being stupid like that. See, Kay is like Kay is like the like my ideal moderator, because he doesn't take any rubbish. Crunchy is very sweet and and forgiving. Yeah, I couldn't quite make out what they were saying. I just knew that they were like, you know, but I didn't know if they were doing it tongue-in-cheek or whether they were just actually trolling outright. Okay, you can see the colors. It's looking quite good, but I think my heat is dying off, as always. But what did I do? Okay. I actually quite like this wok, you know. I might be using it a lot more in future. But it's good, like, because it's heavy base, right? is good for doing this sort of stuff. If you were using that thin iron wok that you've seen me use once or twice before for stir frying, those are good for like scorching like noodles or something like that, or scorching your veggies, right? That you want that kind of nice little like smoky flavor with. But those are not great for cooking this, okay? You might end up like burning your laksa paste or your curry paste if you use that. They were just being rude, don't worry about them. Oh, cool. The thing that people don't realize is that the chat is actually public, and I actually can go back and replay what they say, right? If they weren't banned, and actually take screenshots of what they say, and then share it with the world to see what idiots they are. Crunchy. Crunchy is being very accommodating. Jackie has come to terms with me swearing because I'm the mod who gets... yeah, pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. I don't know if come to terms is the word with it. Tolerate, maybe, yeah. And Crunchy is the one who goes around telling people my Discord server is a Christian server, no swearing and all that. So there's a good kind of like a balance there, I think. So this is actually just I always feel that it needs to be hotter, and then when I try and switch out the gas bottle, it turns out that's still half full, you know. I'll just wait for someone to hack them again and release it to the public. I changed the title like a good girl. Yes, you did. Well done. And the other thing my mods and my subs get as well is that I get invited to random places, right? And you know, if you're a sub, if you're in Sydney, you can come along too. Like at the moment, I've got an invite to a burger place, right? It's always me plus a friend, and because I'm, you know, alone, I can bring one of you along. But this burger place is actually vegetarian, so none of you guys are vegetarian who are in Sydney. So guys, I watched The Void movie that you guys... Who recommended The Void? I've never heard of it. Have you, I don't know how old you are, but have you seen The Omen? The Omen and The Omen 2, forget about 3. The Exorcist, obviously. This is how old I am, right? The Thing, the first one, The Thing. Obviously The Shining. Those sort of movies are what I liked. I added late night snack, and that probably boosted this. Yeah, right, that's probably it. Watch the Japanese versions of The Grudge or The Ring. The Shining, I didn't find scary. It's more as atmospheric, you know. Did you watch it alone though? You know, it's like the whole, next time you go to a big hotel, big old hotel, you think about it. Don't mod me, you. Okay, this is from, is it Geppo that you guys banned? Okay, this is from Geppo. He says, listen here, if you don't mod me, you will be getting bonbon food, and I ain't talking good food. That's a whisper from Geppo Jr. Live my life. You didn't ban him. Okay, I timed him out. Okay, radio. Okay, this actually looks quite yellow for a laksa paste. I would imagine it would have looked a little bit redder. Clumsy Drow, thanks for following. And Crunchy is taking the credit now for these follows because she says it's because of the title of the stream that he changed to. Okay, does someone wanna ban Geppo Jr. because he's trying to troll me via his private message? Geppo Jr., you're such a crybaby, alright? Everybody's saying Geppo Jr. is a crybaby, grow up. And yeah, Tiffany, thanks for following. Geppo Jr., you don't know me. I write about trolling on my blog, alright? I get invited on television to talk about how I deal with trolls. That's not gonna throw me off. Oh, that is so original, Geppo. Oh, my food looks like crap. Oh wow, I guess I better go away and cry about it, right? Crybaby, I know, right? Look, I've been selling food for like, you know, over 25 years. You think you're gonna put me off by saying my food looks like crap? Looks like, oh, a stronger word than crap, but like I'm not gonna say it online. But get your mommy to give you a hug. Maybe you need a diaper change or something like that, you know. Then you'll feel a little bit better about the world after that. Okay, so you can see what I'm, that's one thing I remember about using these stainless steel woks that my mom uses, right? Is that it does start to stick a little bit over here. So just make sure when it does that you scrape it a little bit. Otherwise, if you leave it, it's going to start burning and burning and burning, okay? But we're going to stop here now because this is pretty much done. And then we're going to set it aside. You know what? I'm going to start simmering it in the stock pot. Okay, here we go. I don't know if I should do all of it. I think that's too much for me. Okay. So I'll do half of it. And like I said, if you want, you can actually add the seasoning now, right? You'll have to kind of like guess how many portions this will make, right? And then kind of guess how much salt, if you use salt. I use chicken powder, but you know what? I was actually watching replays of my past broadcasts from like 4 years ago, and I was touting chicken powder back then. Seriously, somebody needs to talk to this chicken powder company and tell them all the work I've been doing for them for free all these years. But yeah, I would put chicken powder and maybe a pinch of sugar, but we'll see how we go. So this is the paste in here. I'm going to add some stock, some water, and some coconut milk to it and simmer it, and then we'll add the seasoning and take it from there, yeah? And the other thing you got to keep in mind when you're cooking like a curry paste thing like this, when you're standing over your stove and frying it for like you know, 15-30 minutes or something like that, you're gonna get oil splatter a little bit, all right? And that's one of the reasons why I like using things like the thermocook to do the stirring for me, because it's kind of like, I'll show you, because this can actually do the cooking for you, right? So you can actually put all the paste in there, add the oil in there, and then turn it on and let it stir it for you, and you set the time and you set the temperature and all that, okay? And because it's quite a high jug, you get very minimal spitting. And what you can actually do, because there's a cap over here, you can leave the cap slightly open just for the steam to escape. Yeah, that's how I actually, if I were doing this at home for my own personal consumption, that's how I would actually cook it, okay? Just let me wipe this down a little bit. I'm a little bit obsessed with making sure I don't have oil splatters all over my gear. Okay, so that's the laksa paste. You may actually need more oil. We'll see how we go, alright? Let's add some water to this. This looks quite strong colored at the moment. Some chicken stock. How much salt? Ask Geppo seems to have heaps of it. Okay, so it's looking not too bad so far. You can see it over here. And we're gonna throw in the coconut cream. Geppo is trying to message me. I can't read it, Geppo. Are you back from your nappy change? Okay, let's throw in, oops. Throw in the coconut cream, okay. And then we're gonna simmer it. I'm gonna wipe this down because like I said, I can't stand spillage. Maybe Geppo is a demon possessed or something like that. I don't understand why people would choose to try and harass people like me, you know. Come on, what did I do to you? It doesn't bother me, first of all. I think it's hilarious. And second of all, I'm not the sort of person to kind of like let things slide, you know. Depending on what, anyway. I don't see any Geppo. Show yourself. I know, right? He's hiding in my whispers. And so there you go. Coconut cream, chicken stock and water. So chicken stock is optional. Let's plug this in. I think Geppo is too scared to confront you guys. He's scared of K. K, there you go. That's your badge of honor there. Geppo is banned. Okay, cool. Right here. Working chef, thanks for following. Oh, working chef, that's interesting. Okay, so I've got probably about how much? 2.5 liters of liquid in there. So based on that, I'm gonna add chicken powder. 2.5 liters will give me about 6 serves. So I'll put about 3 to 4 tablespoons of chicken powder in there for the moment. You can adjust the flavors a little bit. I'll put 3 in, okay. And I'll put a little bit of sugar in there as well. Have mercy on Gecko. Okay, probably about half a tablespoon, 1 tablespoon of sugar in there as well. Okay, that's just to kind of like temper the flavor a little bit. You can leave the sugar out; it's not necessary. I just generally sometimes find that it enhances the flavors a little bit. Okay. So, stuffed veggies. So I've got the fish paste, and all of this, like I said, is basil fillets that's been minced essentially in a food processor. But if you want to add a little bit of water, you can. Because I bought the basil fillets frozen. Faparu, thanks for following. Oh, Geppo is following. Oh, wow. There you go. How about subbing, Gep? That'd be even better, okay? So anyway, yeah. What you want to do is just cut up the basil fillets, throw them in your food processor and blend it. If, like I said, you know, if it weren't frozen, you may need to add a little bit of water to it. This was in a frozen state, well, kind of half frozen, so it had some water, some moisture in it already. And then I just add some tapioca starch. Nelson, thanks for following. Oh, thanks for subbing. Awesome. Yeah, so essentially what you want to do is blend it with the tapioca starch to kind of like help it turn into a paste essentially, and you add some white pepper to that, and also you add some seasoning. Again, I use chicken powder. Traditionally at my restaurant we used to add salt plus a little bit of MSG. Okay, so we Asians don't have an aversion to MSG the way like a lot of Westerners do. But you can leave it out if you want. And you can add a pinch of sugar as well if you want as well. Again, just to kind of like balance out the flavor a little bit, okay? So let's get the other cutting board, and we're gonna cut up some eggplant. Okay, so this is the eggplant. And funnily enough, this is like one of my most expensive buys today. I bought 2 of these and like $3 bag of grapes and $2 pack of chilies. So that would have, so the eggplant would have cost me $4 each. So a little bit expensive. Absolute. Thanks for following. Okay, so you want to cut this in half. I mean, there are different types of eggplant. In Malaysia, we use the skinny ones, okay? In which case, you don't need to cut it in half like I did here. But what you do want to do is create, like, cut them into, like, cut them this way so that you've got, like, a slit down the middle here. So you want about 1 centimeter thickness on either side and a slit down the middle. And this is where the fish paste is going to go, okay? And you can do that with a number of different types of vegetables. Really depends on your personal preference. So you can do this with chilies, like I said before. You can use capsicum if you think chilies might be a little bit too hot, okay? Capsicum is what you guys call bell peppers in the States, right? Okay, so this is how I cut them up, just with slits in the middle, right? And I may not be able to use this up. And then, like, a very popular thing for stuffing is tofu, okay? And this is where this dish is actually derived from. It's called yong tofu, which means stuffed tofu. But even within that sphere, you can stuff different types of tofu as well. Have a lot of flavor, never tasted. Oh, they're fantastic. They're very creamy and rich, and yeah. You wanna get a hold of some eggplant and do what I do over here, alright? And then I'm going to actually fry this up in the air fryer, but you can fry it up any way you want. Yeah, it's got. I think it's fantastic. You can then fry it up with some garlic and oyster sauce, right? Oyster sauce is one of my go-to ingredients as far as. Let me just put some gloves on. As far as Chinese stir-fry ingredients are concerned. Eggplant is eggs grown on a plant. Yeah, that makes sense. Is that what they taught you, Kay, at school? Okay, so this particular bean curd is actually, like I said, this is actually tofu puff, alright, bean curd puff. And it's been deep fried, right, as part of the manufacturing process. So if you open it up, you'll see that it looks all kind of like honeycomby. Okay, it's like a sponge, and I've used it before in dishes back in my restaurant days, and people have complained that my tofu must be off because it's all spongy. It's meant to be spongy, because I think Westerners are fixated on one type of tofu generally, right, which is the really hard tofu that vegetarians eat. But we Asians have a lot more variety as far as the kind of tofus we use in our cooking. So what I'm doing with this, and usually in all honesty, this particular brand has the tofu puffs in triangular shapes. Usually they actually come square, okay, but it doesn't matter, it's just an aesthetic thing. And what I'm doing is just cutting a slit in the middle, and I should probably, instead of using this big giant knife, I should probably use a smaller one. But, okay, so just cutting a cavity. And if you were using a firmer tofu, right, or one that's not porous like this, you would actually want to cut out some of the tofu flesh in the middle to create that cavity. So you'll actually end up with like a handful of like bits of tofu that's dug out from this, okay? So it's just lots of different ways to use this. I've seen you say that at least 50 times. Thanks to what? So exactly, I know, right? Okay, come on, don't tell me you actually watch my podcasts. You're never around. And the funny thing is, I was watching the replays, and the reason why I'm watching the replays of my old broadcasts on YouTube, which was Google Plus days, right? Because Google Plus is linked to YouTube, and because of that, all my old Google Plus Hangouts are on my YouTube channel. I thought I might actually download them and then re-stream them on Twitch, right? Because some of them are still kind of interesting, I think. And just listening to what I said like 3-4 years ago is exactly the same as what I'm saying today. It's really kind of weird. I'm talking about my obsession with chicken powder and all that sort of stuff. It's really sad. Jackie, the bot told me to hit you with my question. I only have one. What's that? So I've seen all the bots. Okay, right out of bat, start hitting Jackie with it. What's the question? I think it's good you have to replays on your contents are educational. Alright, so on your bat, why am I so fabulous? Yeah, in your mind you are. So why are you so deluded? How's your foot, by the way, Kay? Okay, I'm being a little bit dangerous. Don't do what I'm doing, okay? But what you want to do is create slits with the chilies as well. So anything that you want to stuff, you want to kind of like cut a slit down the middle. Open it up, you see like the stem with the chili seeds over there. So you want to dig out this, the chili seeds, okay? Okay, so now you've got a chili that's got a slit down the middle and a cavity where you can stick the fish paste in, okay? Like I said, in all honesty, you should really need like much fatter chilies than this, okay? This is really lame. I didn't buy this intending to stuff it. I bought it because I needed chilies. And then I thought, look, I need it for this broadcast, so let's do it. My foot is well shaped and helps me stand. How's your ankle string? Is your ankle string keeping you from work, Kay, or is this your day off? Okay, so that's that. The funniest thing was like that other guy last night who was trolling me, and I ended up like calling him out. I banned him, and then I kind of like I kind of screenshotted what he said, and then later on I shared the link to it, and Remy was going, why are you doing that? You know, he's not going to see it, he's been banned. I said, it doesn't matter, I'm just trolling him. He said, well, you're trolling nobody. I said, no, I am. I'm trolling his channel ID so people can go and check out what an idiot he is, you know, or at least tell him, you know. Because I like to troll trolls. That's kind of like part of my raison d'etre, you know. Okay, so this is, the soup is boiling away. Let me just taste test this. So you can see it is quite orangey in color. It's quite spicy, not completely over the top spicy. Are hamburgers popular where you live? Do people eat them often? Is that like an American thing? They are popular. They have been popular in Australia over the last probably like at least 3 years now. So if you go on Instagram, all the foodies in Australia have been posting hamburger photos. It's just at the tail end of it, right? I mean, it's popular in the sense that it's a bit of a fad. I mean, we've always eaten hamburgers because McDonald's has always been around. But in the last 3 years or so, this whole like burger joint thing became like a hipster hangout, right? So a lot of even the higher end restaurants converted into burger joints. So you get people stack all kinds of like different combos with their burgers and all that. But I think it's just gotten to the point. I actually missed out on that whole, you know, that whole fad. I hate following fads. If something is a fad, I make a, you know, a concerted effort to avoid it, right? So, but now it's gotten to the point where all these food bloggers are complaining about how they're sick and tired of eating hamburgers. So it could be near the end of its life cycle. But having said that, last night I was Googling where to eat, all right? We didn't end up going out because Noah's my little Down syndrome kid. He was just being a little bit of a bugger. But I had actually thought, I don't feel like cooking tonight, right? I actually Googled, because where I live here in Sydney, I'm only 20 minutes away from the city centre, but it's a real bugger trying to drive into the city because of traffic and all that, right? So I thought locally, I wonder what kind of eating places are available. I never eat locally because this particular suburb seems a little bit of a, you know, it's not exactly like nightlife central. And then apparently there's a very famous burger joint near me, right? And that's what I wanted to go to. It's called, jeepers, I can't remember what it's called. I have to Google it again. But yeah, it's got like photos. I mean, it's actually a very kind of like home run business. It's not pretentious or anything like that at all. So it sounds exactly like the sort of place I want to go. So I don't want to pay 20 bucks for a burger, you know. But this one, by all accounts, is very, very well regarded. Apparently they've been running for 50 years. So yeah, so burgers are popular in Australia. Now this soup, I think, it tastes fabulous. I'll bring it over and show you what it looks like. Okay, it looks like a runny curry at the moment. I'm hoping that the oil will kind of like come through after a while, and just because, like I said, this is what a curry looks like. A laksa should look like it's got like a nice sheen of oil over the top. So I'm wondering if I should add some more oil to this. And nice Asian places in Kogarah near the train station, really? Huh. Okay, Brighton Le Sands. Brighton Le Sands strikes me as being overpriced. I have kind of like wandered down. Now the other thing with the laksa soup as well is you can throw in your tofu puffs in there, and usually you want to cut them in half, right? So it shows the, so you can see the catacombs, right? And then throw it in the soup. And then when you serve it, say if you're running a laksa stall, laksa stand, you'll have the pot of soup on one side, and then you'll have like a big pot of water for poaching your noodles and all the other stuff that go into it, right? The vegetables, the garnishes, right? They'll poach all that, dunk them into a bowl, and then they'll ladle the soup with a couple of pieces of the tofu puffs in it. Okay, so this is just a little bit borderline salty, so I'm just gonna, and also it seems a little bit thick as well, so I'm gonna add a little bit more water to it, and we're gonna simmer it a little bit longer. And I'm gonna add a little bit of oil to it. It's not gonna be quite the same as like a nice, like, Anutra, thanks for following. It's not going to be the same as like a nice, because the oil should technically look like red, like chili red oil, okay? But I've just put some regular oil in there. Let's simmer this and let's see how it turns out. Flavor-wise, I think it's great, okay? So like, it tastes more like a curry than my laksa, obviously, because my laksa, like I said, does not have a curry powder in it. But it's very, very nice. Okay, so that's my fish paste over here, and I'm gonna start stuffing it. And usually you want to use like a butter knife or something like that, but here you go. So you just open this up, get some of the fish paste, right, and just place it in the middle. It doesn't have to be basa fillets. I use basa fillets because it's cheap, right? Liana Yokohan, thanks for following. Liana 8 Yokohan, thanks for following. Okay, so you just want to kind of smooth it out a little bit. I mean, if you want to be fussy, you can actually have a separate bowl of salted water to kind of like dunk your knife or whatever it is you're using into, just to smooth it out. I have never actually bothered or felt the need for it to do so, okay, but it's entirely up to you. And again, basa fillets I'm using because it's the cheapest available fish, okay, $6.50 a kilo. Kilo is about 2.2 pounds. But fish in Australia otherwise is generally quite exorbitantly expensive, okay? And like the more traditional fish you would use for this here in Australia would cost closer to $30 a kilo, right? But just using this kind of like is proof that you don't have to actually, a lot of the time, right, when you're trying to replicate flavors of like what you ate, you know, in your home country, it bears to keep in mind that the kind of ingredients they use may not necessarily have fallen into line simply because they fell into line maybe because that's all they had available, all right? So just because they use mackerel in Malaysia doesn't mean you have to use mackerel here, all right? Just kind of like work with what's available locally as well. Again, it's kind of like a striking a balance thing. Okay. Tired. Here you go. So just again, just sticking probably about 2 tablespoonfuls of filling. It's up to you how much you put in. I tend to err on the generous side with everything I do. That's kind of like the signature mark of how I approach my cooking, right? And that cut across the board to back in my restaurant days. So I'm just stuffing the tofu, again just stuffing the cavity with the fish paste. But that's just me, you know. Like in Malaysia, that people will eat my food at my restaurant and wonder why I charge $17 for a bowl of laksa, right? I know. I mean, there's obviously there are other factors that come into play. That's like, you know, Australian wage labor costs, and like, you know, the cost of like rents and insurances and all kinds of 50 things that you don't have to worry about in Malaysia. And then they go to Malaysia, and for the same bowl of laksa they might pay like a couple of bucks. Well, to be honest, even in Malaysia things are a little bit more expensive now than back in my day. But then you might get nothing on top, you know, you might get like a token little sprinkle of chicken, shredded chicken on top. So it's all, to some extent, relative to how much you pay for it, you know. And if you've got any recipe requests, right, let me know. I know there are a number of things I haven't done yet that I've been meaning to, but to a large extent, because I live stream 3 times a week cooking, like what, and then I do the Saturday night campfire stories, which someone renamed to "Are You Afraid of Ghosts?" the other day, and that got so many people interested in what we were talking about. We were actually talking about ghosts, yeah, I already cook, like, you know, live on air like 6 to 10 hours a week. It's like I have to eat all this food at the end of it, so I tend to actually stick to things that I could see myself eating after the broadcast, you know. But I know there are a lot of things that other people would like to see me do as well that I haven't. And that's why I need guests live on air here with me to help me eat some of the food. That was Remy who renamed it. I know, yeah, it was. That's what I said the other day. I said it on Discord. I said Remy renamed it to "Are You Afraid of Ghosts?" And that brought a bunch of people. And I said, look, I should probably give up this whole food thing and just read ghost stories live on air, and that will probably get me more of an audience. But it's not that I'm fascinated by ghosts, but I grew up in that culture where pretty much, like, in Australia, and that's the funny thing as well, in cosmopolitan Australia, metropolitan Australia, you talk to people about, oh, has anyone had any, you know, supernatural experience? Most of them, they're just like, no. But you go to Malaysia, and every man and his dog has ghost stories, you know, that are either first-hand or like from very, very close relatives. So that was the kind of like the culture I grew up in. My mom, when she was young, when she first came to Australia, used to live above a funeral parlor because it was the cheapest place in town they could actually afford, right? So she saw some stuff, right? So it just permeated how I grew up. Not to say that I think you should mess around with it. I don't think you should. In fact, you know, as a Christian, you know, we're meant to stay away from this sort of stuff. Okay. Can't live without hamburger. Maybe we should do an Asian hamburger one day, you know. Yeah, any suggestions for what you want to watch, let me know. And I wouldn't mind having a go at making hamburgers with an Asian twist. That's the best vegetarian laksa, very good though not vegan. Alright, okay. I haven't had tuna in like a year. I haven't had tuna like forever. For whatever reason. Like eating Japanese, I like salmon sashimi, but tuna sashimi I've never really kind of taken to. Vegan. Have I done vegan laksa? Vegan laksa would be easy enough to do. I've done a I've done vegan, I used to do every Friday, my broadcast used to be vegan. I've only been broadcasting like just coming up to 5 months now here on Twitch. But when I started out, Friday broadcasts were meant to be vegan Fridays, but I was still building my audience at the time, and it's not like, you know, there was a huge demand for vegan food, so I gave up. So this is not particularly pretty. You should actually, in all honesty, just smooth it out a bit better, okay? But these are my stuffed veggies, right? And you can poach them or you can fry them up. I'm gonna fry them up because that's a little bit faster, and also, to me, it's more flavorsome when it's fried up. So let me bring this closer to me. I'm gonna, look, the laksa soup is done. It smells really good actually. And it does smell exactly like the Grand Hyatt KL laksa that I remember having. So it's the recipe actually works. So smooth this out of the way, and I'm gonna actually toss in some veggies later on, and obviously the noodles as well. But yeah, let's fry this up. With the eggplant, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off frying it up in here, but I'm going to finish it off in the air fryer. The reason I finish it off in the air fryer is that eggplant, I'll do actually the same with the tofu as well, is porous, so it soaks up oil like a sponge. So usually in the past when I deep fried eggplant, I used to have to strain it and let the oil drip slowly. But when you do, when you finish off in the air fryer, it holds its, you know, it becomes much nicer. And the air fryer, thermal cook and all that sort of stuff, if you guys are interested, go and check out prestigehomeappliances.com.au, right? They don't sponsor these broadcasts, but they do supply me with the equipment to test out and review. So if you're interested in it, prestigehomeappliances.com.au, and they're worldwide as well, so more or less. There's a sushi and steak buffet. That's a very strange combination. Going to take a week off before I go there in case it makes me sick. Oh, come on. I hate jelly textured food unless it's dessert. My sister got food poison from a McChicken burger from... Really? Seriously? Could she, so she got food poisoning from your local Mac? Could you, like, that's the thing about food poisoning. I find it like a little bit hard to nail down, you know? So, yeah, like, did the food taste odd to her, or? I remember when we went, the first time we went to the USA, we had Mexican food that somehow we stumbled upon. This is like before the days of, like, you know, apps and like, and yeah. Whatever, you know, we used to have like these coupons, you know, like back in the day when you were traveling to the USA, you get these books of coupons and you look through all the special deals and whatever. Came across this one for a Mexican place. This was in Los Angeles, I think. And then my then husband like got so sick he could not get out of the bed for the next few days. So let's just throw the eggplant in. I more or less just want to get it to soak up some oil, then finish it off in the air fryer. Okay. And like I say, you can actually poach or steam these as well. I've never actually attempted poaching eggplants because It just seems to me like it'll get too soggy, but I think steaming might actually work, right? Sushi is usually pretty expensive. In Sydney, it's actually not too bad because there's so much competition in Sydney for sushi. When I used to live in Bondi, Bondi Junction is kind of like a hub for Japanese food, and it was actually quite, you know, quite reasonably priced. And the funny thing is, all the white people in Bondi Junction, like in the eastern suburbs, that's kind of like sushi is kind of like their go-to food. So depending on which part of Sydney you're from, right, the people's diets can vary quite significantly. Okay, so I'm going to throw this in the air fryer at 180 degrees for maybe about 15 minutes or so. And I might do the same with the tofu as well. I should be going now by, bye Crunchy. Yeah, Crunchy needs to toughen up as a moderator. Kay is pretty badass with moderating, almost to the other extreme really. So these are not cooked through yet. Yeah, I just want to finish them up in the air fryer so they don't get too oily. So let's turn this off. And as far as the kind of noodles that go into the prawns, so I've got these manky prawns. I'm going to keep them out of camera shot again because they look really bad. But they should taste okay. I'll know. I'm the only one eating it, so yeah. But they just got a little bit black. Okay. Adventures still have time to catch the stream. Ishix, hey, how you doing? Okay, so out of sight prawns. Okay, I'm just peeling them. Okay, they might be 2 way gone. They were sitting at the bottom of my freezer, and I think there was it may be that there was a problem with that particular freezer's shelf, that it wasn't getting cold enough. I will never ever go to a sushi buffet. How about the sushi train things? Okay, that smells alright. Okay, how about those sushi trains? They're similar to a buffet. Probably don't have chicken things from takeaway. Yeah. Strong combination of cultures and food in Malaysia, in America. It's kind of like that in Malaysia nowadays too. I mean, Malaysia is multicultural anyway. It sounds really cliche, but Malaysia is made up of like three dominant cultures. I mean, there are others as well. But yeah, when you go for a breakfast down in the breakfast buffet at the hotel, you will actually get sushi as well. The chili in the laksa paste and make me cough really bad. It stirs like something stuck in the back of my throat really bad. Okay, so these are my prawns. Okay, so what am I going to do with them? I just want to devein them. fish egg sushi was good. I found that I had bits of it stuck in my teeth. That's the really tiny orange eggs, is it? In my city in America, we have a lot of different cultures. Which city is this, Zodicide? They usually stick to certain neighborhoods. They kind of do that in Malaysia as well, in all honesty, especially in this day and age. There's back in my day, they were more homogenous, you know, like yeah, without naming any particular culture. Yeah, back in my day, everyone kind of like hung out together, sort of thing. But nowadays, there's a little bit more of that segregation, you know, where kids of certain races play only with their own sort of stuff. Sort of it's sad. I mean, not that it happens exclusively, and not whatever, but just nobody's really getting along as well as they used to. Okay, so let's devein this. Just cut it down the middle and pull out the vein. And usually I would save the prawn shells, but these ones look a little bit manky, so I won't bother. So you see these here. I mentioned the orange vein before. This one's got an orange vein and a black vein. The black one is what you want to take out and throw out. The orange one you leave behind, okay, because that's flavor. Try it. The only one of those sushi chain places I went to was Your Sushi. It was okay. I wouldn't go out of my way to go there again. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. There's a sushi place in one of the suburbs here in Sydney called Chatswood, and the place is called Makoto, M-A-K-O-T-O, Ludanite. Thanks for following. Makoto, and I like their sushi train, okay? But generally, yeah, generally I don't go. Let me just throw this out. And in all honesty, at Makoto, when I eat there, even though they have the sushi train, they also have like an a la carte menu. Most of the stuff I end up eating would be stuff I order from the menu. But that's just me, you know. So I want to like heat up some water so I can simmer the prawns and the noodles and the Chinese greens that are gonna go in this. Okay. Coco, thanks for following. So let's just get this. Got the prawns. Let's toss them in something. Oh, Valorine is still here. Valorine's joined me in a couple of my broadcasts before. She actually lives just down the road from me, or in the neighborhood anyway. Out of the way. So these are my prawns. That wasn't segregated, was living on a military base. Oh, did you really? Cool. Mrs. Starduster, thanks for following. I guess I should not go in the sushi buffet. Yeah, sushi buffet sounds a little bit, I think it'll be alright, right? So what, did you grow up in the military? And his father, my father were in the same unit in the military. Okay. Completely different culture than me, but we became really good friends. Oh, cool. Living in Orlando, I have 2 sushi places I go to, and the first one is in the Japanese pavilion of Epcot. There's a Japanese pavilion. I haven't been to Epcot, you know. I've been to Orlando. I haven't been to Epcot. In Disney World, hands down the best sushi I've ever had. Is that right? Stop making me want sushi. Second place is called Seto Sushi, and they run a real close second. There's a sushi place near my house that I love called Sukina Sushi. Huh. Well, even in Ipswich. How multicultural is Ipswich, Kate? But yeah, you know, one of the other food streamers here on Twitch is actually based in, I believe, Orlando, and he was a sushi chef for like 10 years or something like that. His channel, if you guys want to check it out, is The Hunger Service, all one word, obviously. I mean, you know, no underscores or whatever. The Hunger Service on Twitch. So if you go and check it out, he often does Japanese stuff, but not exclusively. So he's done like how to make sushi sessions on his Twitch channel. It's quite interesting. And he was one of the first people I caught when I was checking out Twitch as a possible option for me. Because like I said, I used to live stream on Google Hangouts, and then that got shut down late last year, I think it was. And then I was kind of like nomadic with my live streaming for a while. And I was basically live streaming on Facebook, on Periscope, and that sort of stuff. But yeah, his was one of the Twitch channels I checked out, and he's really cool. I watched a few of his streams. Okay, cool. That's cool. Yeah, there's some cool streamers on Twitch. I do like The Hunger Service because it's got a nice community vibe over there. Yeah, yeah. And the other one is I don't know, you guys checked out Fitness Food. That's a nice, easy to remember channel, Fitness Food. She's a fellow Sydney-sider, and it turned out she actually lives only not too far from me, probably about 20 minutes, I would say. So hoping to catch up with her at some point, because I actually am going to be writing at least one piece for the Huffington Post about Twitch, right? Sammy knows Triad. I spoke to Twitch. C. Jackson, thanks for following. I spoke to Twitch, and they gave me her name as someone I might want to interview her, along with Lara. Lara's got a very complicated URL, not complicated, but a lot of numbers in it, sort of thing. But Lara also is from Sydney, and also she live streams creative, but she plays music, so you should check her out. It's Lara something something numbers. But Lara and Trisha from Fitness Food are two people, two other women from Twitch, Sydney. I keep my food and fitness separate. I don't want to feel guilty eating laksa. I thought about that, you know, like I thought, like, because Lara does her fitness and then she does her cooking and all that, and I thought maybe I should do some fitness ones as well. Not to say that I've actually been working out or anything. I'm not like Lara. Lara is always in gym gear. It's like, oh god, I feel really inadequate. But then I'm old enough to be Lara's mom. But I do know Kung Fu, right? I'm thinking, oh look, I'm so lazy, like, but maybe one way to motivate me to pick up on the Kung Fu thing is actually live stream my workouts, in my Kung Fu workouts, you know. But my dad used to actually teach Tai Chi, like, he was quite, yeah, he taught Tai Chi for decades in Malaysia, and they called him Master Tang over there. So let me just cut up some Chinese greens to go with this. And more traditionally, to go with laksa, more traditionally, you would actually get bean sprouts with it. I don't have any bean sprouts around. I'm not a huge, like, I'm not, you know, I can live without bean sprouts, right? And also, more traditionally, the kind of noodles that go into a laksa, curry laksa, would be what we call vermicelli or rice sticks. I've got some here somewhere. Okay. So this is literally is labeled rice stick. Isan, thanks for following. Okay, and you should be able to find this at any Asian grocery store because this is quite universally used. All right. So, like I say, it's either labeled vermicelli or rice stick or both. Okay, this one says rice stick, and then in French it actually says vermicelli de riz. Okay. Usually what you want to do is soak this in hot water. All right, usually just hot tap water is adequate. Soak it, strain it, and then you still have to cook it, but only cook it for like 30 seconds, okay? Because it will already be soft. You know, in all honesty, for this particular brand anyway, different brands will have different like behaviors, all right? So to have a quick look through the instructions, I've bought something that looks very, very similar to this, but from Vietnam, right? And I found soaking it in hot water, like I just told you, didn't really work with it. I mean, it was still quite stringy at the, you know, after a while. Tinori, thanks for following. And then I went back and read the instructions, and they had different like ways to prepare it. And I forget what it was. I think it was like soak it in cold water and then boil it for a longer period or something like that. But you know, in the end, it turned out fine. But yeah, this is what usually in Malaysia you'll have a combination of this noodle and what we call Hokkien noodle, which is the yellow egg noodle, right? With your laksa. That's the very, very typical way of having it. And like I said, laksa tends to be a breakfast dish in Malaysia. So what you would do is you tell the guy, the vendor, what you want, like whether you want vermicelli or you want Hokkien noodles or you want a mixture of both, okay? By default, they'll give you a mixture. Okay, this thing is just taking a little while. I always change rice stick noodles to pad thai because I much prefer the thicker noodles. Growing up, I never really liked the vermicelli. Last noodle, my mom doesn't think I'm a proper Are you Asian? Yeah, that's right. I mean, yeah. The other thing as well, don't confuse vermicelli with mung bean noodles, all right? Mung bean noodles look very, very similar, but they're thinner, and they're what we call glass noodles. And they're so incredibly slippery that it's hard to actually get them on your spoon, all right? Those are those are more commonly used in a casserole dish. Sometimes you do get like those mung bean noodles in a clear fish broth in Malaysia, right? But it's not generally used in like that widely in like a laksa or something like that, right? But yeah, I'm like that too, because you know, having told you what traditionally goes with it, I'm not like fixated on having exactly these noodles to go with my laksa. I actually prefer similar to pad thai, right? But this is fresh rice noodles, right? And this is what I use for stir fry, but you can blanch it and then serve it with soup as well. So I'm going to use this instead. Okay, so that's my eggplant after it's cooked for 15 minutes. Let's take that out. This one could cook a little bit longer, and I'm gonna toss the other stuff in there, the other stuff veggies, right? Yeah. So this, I'll just get it cooking for. It's preset to 15 minutes. It probably won't need that long, but this water looks like it's about to die. And yes, it is multicultural here. Huh. Oh, you're just like me, Jackie. Those noodles are my favorite. Oh, cool. I got a complaint email from when I had my restaurant, and I used to serve my laksa with these noodles, right? And there was this woman who used to come religiously to my restaurant, and she actually came in a wheelchair. She was Malaysian, Chinese. Always ordered the laksa, and then at some point it must have frustrated her to the point where she actually decided to write me an email and say, you're using the wrong kind of noodle. Traditionally in Malaysia it should be the vermicelli and Hokkien noodle. So I had to reply and tell her, look, not for laksa nyonya. For curry laksa, yes, laksa nyonya you use actually not even either any of these, you actually use something else. But I said the point is that it's a kind of like a preferential thing. And you notice the vermicelli noodles, you saw how it was like a big cake, right? And I say that you have to soak it It's very hard to soak any less than like a whole packet of it because they kind of like crumble and fall apart. They just make a big mess. And back in my restaurant days, I didn't have such a big restaurant that I could actually be soaking all these bags of noodles, right? Because I already used this noodle for my stir fry for 2 other dishes, for wat tan ho, which is the runny egg yolk sauce noodle, and I also use it for char kway teow, right? And I also use it for yong tau fu. And to me, it's easier just to use one type of noodle across a number of menu options on in my restaurant, instead of like having different dedicated noodles and then having a lot of stuff being thrown out. But it's all just part of like the logistics of running a business. That's why I say, you know, next time before you whine on Yelp or whine on Google reviews or something like that about a restaurant and things being less than what you expected, just kind of like give some thought to why, the reasoning why some people do things the way they do anyway. This girl I know goes to the free shop we have there like every week, gets free clothes, sells them and sells them on Facebook. Seriously? What free shop? What free shop? Let me change out this gas bottle. It's killing me. It's still got a tiny little flame, but look, it's actually still quite full. Somebody needs to sponsor like better camping stoves for me. And sell some on Facebook. That's very entrepreneurial of her. Did anyone see that article about this woman who lives in Bondi Beach, right? How she set up a GoFundMe for $2,900 because she said she was about to get evicted, and she was actually a graduate student or a university student who's been taking so long to finish her degree that her Austudy benefits, which is kind of like, Australia has got such a strong social safety net that you get paid to study essentially, right? But she spent so long trying to finish her degree for whatever reason. She said by her own admission she's a party girl, that the cutoff time had run out on her Austudy benefits, so she no longer was getting benefits. And then she had all these clothes, all these designer clothes and shoes and whatever, and she's like sipping like expensive coffee, like, you know, her lifestyle is very, very eastern suburbs, but somehow she neglected to pay her rent. And then she set up a GoFundMe, so quite a few people were outraged about it. But then she actually met her target within like a couple of days. So it goes to show that there are people out there who would still support, you know, this kind of stuff. A lot of food is created by doing things non-traditional people don't realize they might like something if it's done slightly different. Simple things like different noodles, vegetable, make a dish so much. I know, I agree. Yeah, a lot of people are stuck on tradition. And the funny thing is, like, when you Lee Gibbs, thanks for following. The funny thing is, like, when I started my restaurant, when I started the whole food thing, like, my mission really was kind of like to create authentic Malaysian food. And yet the farther away, I mean, you know, I went on this quest to recreate like authentic Malaysian food, the more I realized, even in Malaysia itself, the food is constantly evolving, that I think the best you can do is really kind of like be faithful to its original flavors, but still give yourself room to play around, like I said, with ingredients, by virtue of the fact that not everything available in Malaysia is available here in Australia. And also, secondly, people forget that, you know, Western palates will be different as well, right? You can't quite put the same amount of chili in your dishes that you might get in Malaysia because no one would buy it, you know. You use fish that's got bones in it, that might turn off people like buying it as well. So there are lots and lots of different ways you can actually change things around. Poseidon, thanks for following. So there are lots and lots of ways, you know, you can change things around that will leave you open to charges that you're not authentic, but you know why you're doing it. As long as you know why you're doing it. I appreciate when people think, you know, when people think that you're kind of like pull the wool over their eyes or something like that, right? Because there are a lot of other people who do that as well, you know. They might make something that looks or tastes nothing like the original and try and pass it off as that. So there's some sort of a balance you got to strike at some point, you know. like for instance, I always give people this example. When I came to Australia like 33 years ago, when I was at university, no, not quite 33 years ago, but because I was in high school when I came over. When I went to university, I used to work at this Malaysian takeaway place called Lee's Malaysian, and it's very popular still in Sydney, and they have a very, very popular laksa. But their laksa to this day, instead of using coconut milk, they use fresh milk in it, right? And to me, originally, that seemed, it tasted perfect, it tasted fine, right? But I was thinking, why did they use fresh milk? And I talked to the owner, and it turned out when he had started his business 50 years before, like, you know, 50 years ago, you couldn't get coconut milk in Australia, so he had to use fresh milk. And yet, you know, you go back to Malaysia now, there's a trend with some of the more hipster laksa joints where instead of using coconut milk, they use fresh milk instead, you know. So things evolve, things change, and, you know, I think people just have to be accepting of these kind of like deviations. Yeah, some people, don't you reckon, Sammy? Okay, so when you're cooking Chinese greens, Papa Lau, thanks for following. Lau Lo. When you're cooking Chinese greens, I would usually suggest actually throwing in the stems first, which I did, and kind of like count to 5 before you throw in the leaves, because the stems are a little bit sturdier, so they take a little bit longer to cook, right? And they should be done virtually right away, okay? So don't cover this and simmer this for 10 minutes. You literally cook it for 5 to 10 seconds, depending on the type of greens you're using, okay? I need a sieve, really. Okay, so these are choy sum. Like I said, this is actually very non-traditional. You usually have bean sprouts in your laksa, not choy sum. Unless you're having it at a hotel buffet, then the hotel buffet will have all kinds of stuff for you to add to your laksa. Okay, so you want the noodles. Okay, I've done a broadcast before on how to make these yourself, but essentially these are what we call fresh rice noodles, and what they are basically, if you think of rice flour or rice that's been ground to a flour, that's kind of like mixed to a batter with water and some tapioca starch. Tapioca starch has I'm hooked on the feeling. I have a feeling. Tapioca starch helps things stick together, alright? So that's the function of it. A mixture of tapioca starch and rice flour with water. You get a really thin batter with it, and then you steam it in sheets, alright? And then you cut them into strips, or you roll them up for other dishes, but this is essentially what rice noodles are made from. Okay, so let's put this is a little bit solid because it's been in the fridge, but usually if you're buying this in Australia, in the Asian grocery store, this will not be refrigerated, okay? This will be sold on their shelves. You buy it in a supermarket in Australia. Some supermarkets are a little bit more progressive than others, so you might be able to find this at your local Woolworths or something like that. Then this will be refrigerated, all right? If you buy this in America, certainly in Nebraska, when I was looking for this in Nebraska, I found this in the freezer section, all right? So they're all different. I never thought you could actually freeze these noodles and get away with it. Apparently you can. So like once I defrosted it, I had to microwave it and stick it under hot running tap water and all that. It did break up quite badly, okay? So it's not perfect. But I guess they had to freeze it because they just didn't sell enough of it to kind of like to, you know, get the kind of turnover they need. I'm going to cover this up. Okay, again with these, you can virtually, like, I've turned off the heat actually. With these rice noodles, as soon as you dunk them in hot water, you can actually just use water from the kettle for this. It will just completely soften up. It's already cooked, so you don't have to worry about like cooking it up. Let's strain it out. I need a bowl. yeah, guys, like I was saying, don't forget my Discord server. That's where you can reach me, especially if you tag me. I should be able. At this stage, my Discord server is sufficiently like uncluttered that I will see all the messages. But if you really want to get my attention, just tag me. There's a bunch of us over there who are currently here under different, you know, pseudonyms. But I'm just Jackie M Food over there. So if you've got any food questions or you've got any stories you want to share for me to use on my next campfire stories on Saturday night, you can post them over there. But definitely, because Twitch's chat is such that it scrolls through, so I can't see earlier messages if I were away from, because I run a lot of podcasts, right? Because I think by virtue of the fact that my recipes are fairly evergreen in the sense that if you miss this episode, right, if I replay it, it's not going to kill you to wonder like why I'm doing it. So I do replay a lot of these via like a vodcast playlist on my Twitch channel, but I'm not always around in the chat to kind of engage you, right? And if I'm not, then your best way to reach me is on Discord, which is just bit.ly/discordjackie, all lowercase, Jackie, or otherwise, yeah, Nightbot should pop up the link anyway. I want to try more Malaysian desserts. Are you Malaysian or? The Malaysian desserts sounded really, really appealing until I started learning how to make them. And then it's like, oh, I got this whole tray of like this particular dessert and it's just me and Noah and we can't eat it all. I'm more of a savory person, so dessert is nice to have, but like when I actually cook it and, you know, I can't get through all of it. I've made like last week on one of the sessions, I made these things called onde onde. They're glutinous rice flour balls coated with coconut and stuffed with palm sugar, Malaysian palm sugar. And after the session, I actually gave it to my neighbors. So, okay, so let's assemble this. Let's check on how this is going. Okay, so this is done. These are the rest of the stuffed vegetables. Let's take them out. Chopsticks. I'm a savory person too. Yeah. I mean, I feel guilty now, or like eating sweets sometimes. I like chocolate, but but you know, not so much that I can replace dinner with like chocolate or cake or something like that. I have to have my savory. Like Remy, who's one of my mods, she, like last night I think it was, she was saying that she was skipping dinner because she's got some birthday cake left over, her mom's birthday cake left over, and she was just gonna eat birthday cake. I was like, how can you do that? No. Okay, so in go the noodles, right? So in Malaysia, they'll have like these, I should have brought it down. I've got one of these, I'll go and show you here. So the laksa vendor or any kind of like soupy noodle vendor will have one of these, right? This is what they use to blanch the noodles in. Okay, so you go over there and you say, oh, I want this a combination of these two noodles, the rice noodle and the Hokkien noodles, and I want some whatever, you know, some fish cake and some stuffed veggie or something like that. And he'll stick them all in here, and then he'll dunk it in this big pot of water. Take it out, give it a shake. Toss it into this bowl, and then separately he'll pour out the soup over it. So I've got all this stuff that are kind of like legacy from my restaurant days, you know, and they take up so much space in this place here. Okay, got this, some of the greens. Did we cook anything else, or? Okay, so there you go, and let's put the laksa soup over it. So it actually still looks very curryish, so you'll have to forgive me for this. Okay, so there's some tofu I added to this, and that's the laksa soup. Let me just check what the time is. Okay, 2:43. I should wrap up now. Okay, so it's fairly spicy, but like I said, this is what we call curry laksa, and essentially the prawns. I forgot about the prawns. It doesn't matter. I peeled the prawns and deveined them, and I forgot to cook them. I'm just gonna toss them in the air fryer, and then I might add them to my meal afterwards, but you don't have to sit around to watch me do that. Yeah, okay. So this is basically like a glorified curry, right? Noodle curry. Like I said, this is called curry laksa. You know, in Malaysia has how many states? There are like 13 states/territories in Malaysia, and virtually each one has its own take on laksa. And some of them are so incredibly different you would never guess it was actually laksa. Like for instance, in Kelantan, up north of the peninsula of Malaysia, the laksa, the soup is not brown, it's actually white, all right? And the noodles they use is different, and the stock is different. You know, essentially they steam and then they mash this fish over it, all right? And down south in Johor, their laksa looks virtually to me like spaghetti bolognese. They actually, in fact, use spaghetti as the, yeah, thanks for following. In fact, they actually use spaghetti noodles in their laksa, right? And I've made it once before. I've never actually tried it in Johor itself, but based on the recipe I've found online, the version I ended up making to me looked a lot like spaghetti bolognese. It tasted fantastic, by the way. And the other thing was that that particular laksa is sufficiently dry that apparently you would eat it with your hand, all right, in Malaysia, in Johor, that particular state. And then there's in Penang, most people will know of Penang laksa now. And in Penang, their laksa actually has no coconut milk in it. It's like a fishy tamarind like sour broth, right? And we've got like all these fresh herbs like that bunga kantan, the ginger flower bud I told you before. It's got that in it. Kind of like, but not pureed. It'll be like shredded and put over the top with shredded cucumber and shredded pineapple, and then it'll have like a dollop of really pungent fish paste over it. Okay, so everyone does their laksa different. And in Kuala Kangsar, which is kind of like in the middle of the country, inland, you know, they do something similar to what they do in Penang as well. But in Penang, you can get this, but they don't call this laksa, okay? In Penang, they call this curry mee. Mee means noodles. So basically, they call it curried noodles, right? And again, they have their own take with the curry noodles as well. They'll put like pig's blood in there and all that. I don't eat pork. I'm not a Muslim, I'm a Christian. But I don't eat pork. So there's a number of things in Malaysia, within the street food scene that I've never actually tried. Crunchy is back, quick before the hyena comes. My boyfriend's a meat and chips kind of guy, so annoying, he hates non-basic food. Not a fan of scallops. Oh, I love scallops. I wish my girlfriend likes scallops more. I'd make pan-seared scallops, sesame. Oh, that's very cool. Not even pork crackling. No, I eat chicken crackling. Chicken crackling is fantastic, by the way. You should try it. And I cook it in the air fryer. I've done it before. I should do it again. I actually, if I had time, I would do it now, but I'm gonna wrap up now. But yeah, chicken crackling is fantastic. So what I do now, because I don't actually like eating chicken skin unless it's deep fried. So what I've been doing now, every time I cook chicken, is I trim off the skin and just season it with some white pepper and a little bit of that chicken powder you've seen me use, right? And then just toss it in the air fryer for totally about half an hour, 40 minutes, and it's fantastic. It's spot on. How is this still going? Because we were waiting for you to come back. Okay, guys. So there you go. Laksa, all right? Curry laksa, not my usual laksa. My usual laksa I've done literally like scores of times everywhere. But this is curry laksa. This is my first time ever making it. DMC Jin, thanks for following. But yeah, so this was my first ever time making it. It tastes really nice, okay? But aesthetically, it looks like curry. Okay, ideally, like I said, if I had actually added more oil during the frying process, I would have had a nicer red layer of oil over it, but it doesn't matter. It's just an appearance thing, okay? If you want more greens, you can put them in. And also, with my laksa nyonya that I serve, I usually have like a boiled egg cut in half in here as well, but again, these are all the different ways you can actually tart up your laksa dish, okay? But it's nice to have, but not absolutely necessary. If you're making the laksa paste, like I said, what you can do, what did I do with the rest of the paste? Oh, it's in the back. What you can do, like I said, is that when you're frying up the paste, actually add the seasoning then instead of after you've added the soup, right? And then you can stick the paste in jars and you can send it off to, you know, you can take it with you to college or something like that. And then just like bring some coconut cream, or you can bring some powdered coconut milk. I'll put some of that here. Okay, so this one here says coconut milk powder, all right? So in theory, you can actually take this with you and then just camping or something like that, bring your laksa paste, and you just need to add hot water and some coconut milk powder to it, give it a shake, and that's your laksa soup, all right? For wherever it is that you're eating this, where it's not quite convenient for you to be able to do all this like what I just did, right? And that's how you make laksa paste, and that's how you can do it with all kinds of curry paste, in fact, right? So you can just take it out of the jar, like you keep the jar in the fridge just to be safe. It will be fairly resilient. It can keep out of the fridge for 3-4 days. Ideally, keep it in the fridge. If you're not going to use it for the next 4 to 6 weeks, keep it in the freezer, and then just pop it in, like, you know, if you're making a curry, just add some meat, add some water and coconut milk, and simmer it till the meat's cooked, and that's your curry or whatever it is you're cooking. All right. Okay, well, there you go, guys. Thanks again for joining me. Next broadcast is this Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Sydney time. I'm running out of bandwidth, in all honesty. After paying $150 per month for extra bandwidth, it looks like I'm using it up a little bit too fast already. But otherwise, I would be uploading and kind of like running or live streaming the recordings of some of my old broadcasts from YouTube, all right, when I was like about 3-4 years younger and about 3-4 kilos skinnier as well. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. Don't forget to kind of like connect with us on Discord. Again, the URL is just bits.ly/discordjackie. Also, finally, quick shout out to Lenovo Australia, who supplies me with the laptops for my live streaming. I'm using a Lenovo Lenovo IdeaPad Y700. Alyssa, thanks for following. For my live stream, all right? And I will see you on Wednesday. Otherwise, I'll hang around in the chat when I run my podcast, if I can, when I can. Thanks again, guys. See you later. Ciao.